Hello, I'm Claudia Cevenini, and I will present our short paper on the first legal framework on ATC data collection and sharing within the ATCO2 project. The ATCO2 project basically is a European project funded by the Clean Sky 2 joint undertaking. And the topic concerns automatic data collection and semi-supervised processing framework for deep learning. What are we doing? Our consortium is currently working on the use of speech technologies and speech recognition to transcribe pilot air controller conversations. And the work includes an analysis of the ethical and legal framework to ensure that the work that is being done is fully compliant with ethical principles and applicable rules. What are the objectives of this short paper? Discussing basic techno-legal issues with a multidisciplinary approach. We're not intending to provide final answers, but more to create awareness on the existence of possible legal issues that need to be addressed before working on a technological project. So concerning the legal framework of ATC, big speech data, we have to deal with privacy and data protection, data management security, IPR, and public data. First of all, we have to remember that not everything that is freely available can also be always freely used. So simple actions like recording and storing speech data, listening to speech data, transcribing may require a previous analysis on the lawfulness of all these actions. This legal analysis can concern rules at national, European, or sectoral level. How do we address the legal framework? Well, we have to remember that laws are abstract and they have to be applied to concrete contexts that evolve continuously. So we have a trade-off between the stability of law and the need to address a continuous evolution of technology, for example. And then laws have boundaries. So we have laws that apply only to a specific member state or to Europe and not to non-EU areas, and so on. So there may be substantial differences. What is allowed in one state may not be allowed in another state. So setting a first basic legal framework is a starting point. Legal and ethical aspects have to be dealt with from the very start of each technological project. So we have to map each technical activity with the corresponding ethical and legal considerations. One very important aspect concerns data collection. So data are accessible, but can we really use them? Can we resort to fair use, or are there exceptions concerning research purposes? We have to create a legal resource database. This is what we're doing now for our technical partners. I make a short example, like in the UK, there is a Wireless Telegraphy Act that prohibits certain activities that are otherwise allowed in other countries. So it's illegal to use wireless telegraphy apparatus to obtain information on messages if you're not the intended recipient. Data protection is another very relevant aspect. And although ATC recordings may not contain personal data, however, this can't be excluded. So if personal data are mentioned in the conversation, we have to respect all basic principles: transparency, data minimization, purpose limitation, data retention, and so on. But at the same time, even if we don't have any personal data at all in the speech recording, we have to remember that even voice print per se is biometric data. So from the voice, we can possibly identify a person. So we have also to consider this. If possible, data should be anonymized or pseudonymized to minimize the impact on the private sphere of data subjects. Then we have reflected on copyright. Are speech recordings copyrighted works? Actually, possibly not, because a copyrighted work is the outcome of the author's own intellectual creation. It has to be original, innovative, and actually ATC data collection does not have these characteristics of originality and innovation. But at the same time, we can have information arranged in a database. In this case, there is a special right, which is called sui generis right, which is recognized to the persons that have invested substantially in the creation and verification of the database. So an ATC database may be protected by a sui generis right, and issues like licensing should be considered. Then we have also reflected on ATC as public data. As you may know, public sector data should be made available as openly as possible, because this could be useful for the benefit of the public. We know that, for example, websites of public authorities share a lot of data, but we should investigate whether the data, ATC data, may be regarded to as public data that are subject to rules on openness. In Europe, for example, a navigation service provider are either owned by the state or operated by state administrations or agencies. And at the same time, even if we are certain that ATC were public data, we should always read these aspects, these rules on openness of data, together with the limitations set by GDPR, data protection rules, the rules concerning copyright, databases, and so on. Conclusion and further work. So the objective was to discuss some basic issues very briefly, to generate awareness on major topics, but legal and ethical issues on ATC recordings and data have not been fully and deeply investigated, so further work is required to address in the best possible way these aspects for research in technical issues. And the involvement of shareholders in the AT sector would also be very beneficial to better grasp this complex aspect. Thank you very much for listening, and I will be available online for any possible questions.